You're listening to World Business Report on the BBC World Service with me, Rob Young. Now, workers around the world are finding it tough as the cost of living crisis reduces our spending power. Some company bosses, who are paid very well indeed, are opting to share some of the pain. Sort of. Apple's chief executive, Tim Cook, will have his salary cut in almost half this year. The tech giant says Mr. Cook requested the change. He is still due to receive $49 million. Well, we can speak to Chris Roebuck, who is a business and leadership expert who has held senior roles in a number of organisations. Welcome back to the programme, Chris.
Thank you.
How often do company bosses offer to take a pay cut?
There have been a few where they have worked in organisations they've been in for a while and they truly believe in those, and the organisations hit a crisis because they believe in the organisation and loyalty. However, maybe I'm sceptical, but most of the other ones aren't nudged in that direction as Mr. Cook has been, given that last year a leading investor actually voted against his pay award.
Do you think workers welcome the gesture of a chief executive or chairman voluntarily saying, I'm going to take less money?
I think they do if they feel it's, going back to the point, if they feel it's genuine, and also there's a level of relativity in terms of, if your reduction in pay is getting anywhere near what they're being paid, then perhaps it seems more genuine than if you're merely reducing it from $99 million to $45 million or so. Okay, accepted that there are shares in there as well. But to be honest, this is a 30-year trend, and Tim Cook's on 1,500 times the average employee pay. Now, in the early 2000s, we were talking about it being unacceptable for FTSE 100 chief executives to be on 100 times, for global financial services leaders to be on 300 times, and yet the gap keeps increasing.
Now, you mentioned that one large shareholder in Apple had objected to the company's pay policies, but shareholders are ultimately the owners of businesses, aren't they?
Indeed.
And they are able to say when they don't like a company's pay plans and can vote them down every year at the annual general meeting. How often does that happen?
It didn't happen at all, and, in perhaps sort of 20 years ago, but in increasingly people are now saying, hang on, because there has been also an increasing trend, I think, of chief executives' pay packages being structured in a way that the ease with which the chief executive gets all of the proposed pay package is about as difficult as falling off a log. And people are questioning whether or not actually there's any real linkage to the delivery of real value. And actually, if it's a challenge, chief executives are always going on about and it's setting an example of employees having challenging objectives, of employees doing things for the loyalty and commitment to the organization. But then when employees observe them getting large rewards in a way that is rather easier than the employees getting their bonuses, and that the example indicates that the chief executive is perhaps more interested in the money than the loyalty, chief executives speak about, we want you to be loyal to the company, sounds rather hollow. And that, to be blunt, that's an example that all leaders listening should reflect on, in that if you're a leader, people look at you every day and draw conclusions from your behaviour.
Very briefly, Chris, if chief executives were to be paid less, would they be less effective?
There is no logical reason why they should be less effective, in that if they're paid less, it doesn't mean that their capability has suddenly in any way dropped. Their motivation might have dropped, but I think one of the challenges is there is this, we need to attract the best merry-go-round. So one chief executive gets a pay rise, another chief executive moves job and says, oh, look, he's getting more than I was, I need more money. And you get into a vicious circle of everybody trying to out-demand everybody else, with what I would describe as less than independent remuneration committees going along with it. And it just doesn't look good to the general public who are suffering with their gas and electricity bills.
Thank you, Chris. Chris Roebuck there, who's a business and leadership expert.